A country where girls are banned from going to school, where a woman's voice is legally classified as a source of temptation, where you can be stoned to death for who you love, executed for changing your faith, or beaten for listening to music. A country where the government itself has been charged with crimes against humanity by the International Criminal Court. This is not ancient history. This is Afghanistan today. We base these videos on the analysis of different real cases of people facing persecution in their home countries. We are country witness experts from London, focusing on human rights violations. We receive cases for analysis from major law firms who represent asylum seekers in the United Kingdom, United States, Canada, and European Union. Our goal is to prepare evidence-based assessments and expert witness reports for submission to court in asylum tribunals. Today, it is a story about Afghanistan, a country that produces the third largest displaced population in the world. If you are an asylum seeker or a legal representative looking for a country expert witness, you will find a verified list of qualified professionals covering all major regions of the world via the link in the description below. To understand what Afghanistan is today, you need to know how it got here. In 1979, the Soviet Union invaded. The war lasted 10 years and killed up to 2 million Afghans. When the Soviets left in 1989, they left behind a shattered country. Civil war followed almost immediately. In 1996, the Taliban captured Kabul and established the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. They banned music, television, and education for women. They destroyed the ancient Buddhas of Bamiyan. They gave shelter to Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda. After the attacks of September 11, 2001, the United States invaded. The Taliban were driven from power. A new government was formed. A new constitution was adopted. For 20 years, billions of dollars were spent on building a new Afghanistan. Girls went to school. Women entered parliament. A free press emerged. Then, on February 29, 2020, the United States signed a deal with the Taliban in Doha. On August 15, 2021, the Taliban walked into Kabul. President Ghani fled the country. The Afghan army, 300,000 soldiers, trained and equipped by NATO, collapsed in a matter of days. Over 123,000 people were evacuated from Kabul airport in 18 days, the largest airlift in modern American history. On August 26, an ISIS-K suicide bomber killed nearly 200 people at the airport gates. On August 30th, the last American plane left Afghan soil. Everything that had been built over 20 years was gone. What followed was the most systematic erasure of women from public life anywhere in the modern world. Afghanistan became the only country on earth that bans girls from education. Here is what the Taliban did step by step. September 2021, girls over 12 banned from school. The Ministry of Women's Affairs replaced by the Ministry for the Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice. Women ordered to stay home from work. March 2022, schools promised to reopen for girls. Then, on the very day students arrived, the order was reversed. The gates closed in their faces. May 2022, all women ordered to wear full body coverings in public. Male guardians face prison if the women in their family do not comply. December 2022, women banned from university. The announcement came while students were sitting their final exams. In the same month, women banned from working for NGOs. April 2023, female staff of the United Nations banned from working. July 2023, beauty salons ordered to close one of the last spaces. where women could still gather and earn a living. And then came August 2024. The Taliban published the law on the propagation of virtue and prevention of vice, 35 articles that turned restrictions into formal law. Article 13 states that a woman's voice is classified as awrah, a source of temptation. Women must not speak loudly in public, must not sing, and must not allow their voices to be heard. Article 17 prohibits publication of images of living beings. In March 2024, the Taliban supreme leader publicly stated that public stoning of women would be enforced. 2.2 million girls are now banned from school. 78% of young Afghan women are not in education, employment, or training. In January 2025, the International Criminal Court took a step that had never been taken before. The prosecutor requested arrest warrants for the Taliban's supreme leader, Haibatullah Akhundzada, and Chief Justice Abdul Hakim Haqqani for crimes against humanity on the grounds of gender persecution. The warrants were issued in July 2025. It was the first time the ICC had acted on this basis. Let me tell you about one case. The details have been anonymized, but the facts are drawn from a real asylum claim, referred to our team by a law firm in London. A young woman, I will call her Farida, was a university lecturer in Kabul. When the Taliban took power, she was told she could no longer work. She continued teaching girls in secret, in a private apartment. In early 2023, someone informed the Taliban. They came to her home. She was not there. They beat her brother and told the family that if she did not stop, they would take her. Farida fled through Pakistan and eventually reached Europe. When our expert assessed her case, the finding was clear. Return to Afghanistan would place her at serious risk of persecution, arbitrary detention, and violence. Her asylum application was granted. The Hazara people, Afghanistan's Shia minority, have been persecuted for over a century. Under the Taliban, that persecution has intensified. Since August 2021, the Taliban have dismissed all Shia judges from the courts. They abolished the Shia personal status law. They removed Shia jurisprudence from education. There is not a single Hazara representative in the Taliban government. In October 2021, Taliban-backed groups forcibly expelled hundreds of Hazara families from their homes in Helmand, Balkh, Daikundi, and other provinces. An estimated 25,000 Hazaras have been forcibly displaced since the takeover. But the Hazara also face a second enemy. ISIS-K, the Afghan branch of the Islamic State, has carried out a campaign of mass casualty attacks, specifically targeting Shia communities. October 2021, a Shia mosque in Kunduz bombed, over 190 casualties. The same month, a mosque in Kandahar, over 135. April 2022, the Seydokan Mosque in Mazar-e-Sharif, 31 killed, 87 wounded. September 2022, the Kaaj Education Centre in Kabul, more than 60 students killed, over 100 injured. Most of the victims were young women preparing for university entrance exams. Exams they were already banned from taking. By September 2022, Human Rights Watch reported that ISIS-K had killed or injured at least 700 Hazaras since the Taliban takeover. In 3 years, at least 61 documented attacks. And then there are those who have almost disappeared entirely. Afghanistan's Sikh and Hindu communities once numbered 700,000. Before the Taliban takeover, approximately 400 remained. By 2023, the United States International Religious Freedom Report counted just 6. Under Taliban rule, apostasy, leaving Islam, is punishable by death. There is no formal legal process. The accused have 3 days to recant or face execution. Christians have either fled or gone deep underground. The Taliban's official position is that it is not possible for any Afghan to be a Christian. Before the Taliban took power, Afghanistan had 547 media outlets and nearly 12,000 journalists, including 2,800 women. Within 3 months, 43% of those outlets had disappeared. By 2024, more than half were gone. 80% of female journalists lost their jobs. The United Nations documented 256 instances of arbitrary arrest and detention of journalists between August 2021 and September 2024. Reporters Without Borders ranked Afghanistan 178th out of 180 countries for press freedom. For LGBTQ individuals, Afghanistan is one of the deadliest places on earth. The penal code criminalizes same-sex relations with up to 2 years imprisonment. Under the Taliban's application of Sharia, the punishment is death, by stoning or by crushing under a wall. Since 2022, at least 98 LGBTQ+ individuals have been publicly punished across 14 provinces, including stonings, floggings, and imprisonment. In 2024, documented cases increased sixfold compared to the previous year. Transgender individuals have been subjected to genital mutilation, electric shock, and sexual violence. There is not a single organization, not a single lawyer, not a single government body anywhere in Afghanistan that provides any form of protection to LGBTQ+ people. Rainbow Railroad received requests for help from nearly 4,000 queer Afghans since August 2021. By the end of 2022, only 247 had reached safe countries. In January 2025, the ICC prosecutor's warrant application specifically included persecution of LGBTQ+ individuals, the first time the International Criminal Court has recognized crimes against this community. The Taliban promised a general amnesty for former government officials and security forces. No written text of that amnesty was ever published. The United Nations documented what actually happened: 218 extrajudicial killings, 14 enforced disappearances, 144 cases of torture, 424 arbitrary arrests, 148 people were killed in just the first 4 months. Victims were mostly former soldiers, police officers, and intelligence staff. They were detained, then killed. Bodies were dumped in public or hung from lampposts as warnings. More than 270,000 former Afghan security personnel trained by NATO are now living in fear. 22.9 million people needed humanitarian assistance in 2025. That is more than half the entire population, the second largest humanitarian crisis in the world, after Sudan. 14.8 million face acute food insecurity. 3.7 million children under 5 are malnourished. Nearly 1 million of them are severely wasted at imminent risk of death. The economy has lost a quarter of its value since the Taliban takeover. 1 in every 2 Afghans lives in poverty. 91% of households face barriers to healthcare. 422 health facilities closed in 2025 due to funding cuts, leaving 3 million people without access to care. Afghanistan is the third largest displacement crisis in the world. By the end of 2024, 5.8 million Afghan refugees were registered worldwide, with another 3.2 million displaced inside the country. Iran hosts up to 4.5 million. Pakistan, over 3 million. Together, these two countries shelter nearly 8 million Afghans, but many are being sent back. Since September 2023, more than 3 million Afghans have been returned, many by force. In 2025 alone, 1.2 million were deported from Iran. In the West, in the 2023 fiscal year, the United Kingdom received over 10,000 Afghan asylum applications. Afghans were the largest nationality group. Across the European Union, around 101,000 Afghan applications were filed, with Germany receiving the largest share. In the United States, Afghan refugees had an 88% asylum grant rate in 2024, the highest of any nationality. Recognition rates tell the story. In the UK, the grant rate for Afghan claims was around 99% in 2023. In Germany, 98%. In Greece, 98%. These are not numbers pulled from the air. These are decisions made by judges in courtrooms applying legal standards, confirming that people who flee Afghanistan have a well-founded fear of persecution. Can people escape by moving to another part of Afghanistan? For most of those in danger, no. The Taliban control virtually the entire country. There is no opposition-held territory. There is no city where their religious police do not operate. For women, every restriction applies nationwide. There is no province where girls can go to school. There is no city where women can work freely. For Hazaras, displacement within Afghanistan simply means moving from one area of danger to another. ISIS-K has struck in Kabul, Mazar-e-Sharif, Kunduz, and Kandahar, across the entire north and south of the country. For LGBTQ+ people, criminalization applies across the whole territory. There is not a single safe place. For former government and security officials, the Taliban's intelligence networks reach every province. UNAMA has documented killings in cities, towns, and villages throughout the country. Internal relocation is not an alternative. It is an illusion. Afghanistan is a country where the government has been charged with crimes against humanity by the International Criminal Court, where half the population needs humanitarian aid to survive, where women have been erased from public life by law, where religious minorities have been driven to near extinction, where journalists are arrested for doing their job, and former soldiers are killed despite promises of amnesty. Freedom House rates Afghanistan as not free, with a score of 6 out of 100, one of the lowest in the world. This was an episode of the human rights, looking at the reasons that force people to flee their country. Thank you for watching. You can also check out our weekly news roundups on this channel. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.